You're listening to Live Wild Radio, the part-time adventure podcast.
Join us as we explore how outdoor adventures build mind, body, and spirit. Hey, Catherine here from Live Wild Radio. We're getting close to Christmas, and it's the new year coming around the corner, so you know what that means. It means a lot of eating, a lot of drinking, a lot of not moving around. So maybe not a bad idea to start thinking about your workout equipment. And you know what? We've got a solution for that. A lot of you already know that we're working out with fitness equipment from Great Lakes Gear, a really cool company out here in the Waterloo region, but they ship all over to Canada and the US. And right now they're offering free shipping for folks who are planning to buy for the new year or for gifts. And you can get things like dumbbells, kettlebells, chin-up bars, maces, rings, you name it, they've got it. We love their quality. We only talk about them because they're tried and tested here first. And here's the thing. If you want to buy through them, then you can save a little money through us. Live Wild is the promo code, all in caps. You'll get 5% off. Save a little money. Meanwhile, we get a bit of a commission out of it, which supports us and all the work that we're doing here because, you know, this helps us out to pay the bills and keep doing what we're doing. And along with that, also on our website at livewildradio.com, you can find quite a few resources about training with kettlebells. We are a big fan of that. And just training in general for the outdoor athletes, etc. We've got podcasts about it. So check us out and enjoy working out.
Yeah, so if you want to take advantage of that promo code, remember it's promo code LiveWild at greatlakesgear.com, and that is in Canada. And then if you're American, us.greatlakesgear.com. That's GIRYA, which is the Russian word for kettlebell. So yeah, basically order some gear, get it in, tell Colin hi, and we thank you. And then use it, because we all get fat over the holidays. So, Catherine, what's this episode about?
It is about stress and sleep, because we all face it, and I'm doing some experiments on it myself.
And, one of the things that causes me stress,
what?
When we have to record an episode again, because I didn't notice that the memory card didn't have any room on it.
Yeah, this is take 3.
So, you guys have no idea what goes into the making of these episodes. You think it's just us motoring our mouths?
You're good at that, though.
Yeah, but sometimes it's motoring our mouths, like essentially into space, because it didn't get recorded.
Yeah.
Like if a podcast fell in the forest and something, and anybody here, I don't know.
On deaf ears?
Yeah.
Well, that's when you're long-winded. It happens sometimes.
Well, that's just you not listening to me. So, this episode is number 4 in the longevity series. And we're going to get into I'm going to go high level because I don't want to bore anybody getting too nerdy, on biological responses. We talked about it beforehand, and we're going to go with the idea of why this is important, like sort of the what is happening, why it's important, and then what you can do about it, right? Rather than make it like a nerd fest of chemical processes. And,
we'll see that for a Q&A, actually.
Yeah, if people really want to get into that shit. I'm happy to get as nerdy as necessary, but a lot of it will really come down to the thing where stress kills, reduce stress. Here's how. We're going to get a little more in depth than that. And the same thing. Sleep is good for you. Not getting enough sleep is bad for you.
Yeah, 6 hours sleep and you're killing yourself.
Fix your sleep.
Yeah.
Although there are genes for people they can be perfectly healthy that require less sleep. Jocko Willink. Mm-hmm. He's one of them.
Oh, really?
Like, what a perfect thing to happen.
You actually had that tested?
Yeah.
Really? Well, that's pretty good for
A Navy SEAL.
Isn't that part of the qualification?
Where they
Entry level?
run you with way less sleep,
Yeah.
as far as the testing goes.
Wow.
So when you're people that actually function better, like function well with less sleep because you replenish quicker.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if some CEOs are like that.
Oh, they could be.
Makes you wonder.
Or they could just be on like all sorts of drugs too.
That's true.
Right.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Like, because it's funny how our view on drugs, if you got a prescription, that's fine.
yeah.
But we're going to cover stress first. So,
Yeah, totally. I think everybody can relate to that immediately.
and so it really comes down to this, like our biological system evolved to handle stress that was dangerous, right? So lions and tigers and bears, or other tribes throwing spears at us, that kind of stuff. And the problem is that doesn't happen very much anymore. What we are now faced with is a antiquated system responding to modern threats, and I'm doing that in air quotes that you can't see. But it responds as if it's life-threatening. Like our body doesn't know, this is just a deadline, right? Mm-hmm. It's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
Or that's just your wife, being pissed with you, or that's just, your kid's a fuck up, whatever, like all these different things that we get stressed over, right? Mm-hmm. Like the not having the downtime that we need to replenish.
Yeah.
Go, 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 go. But it's go in your car, right? Like it's not like you're truly going. So we get stressed without the physical outlets. Mm-hmm. When we were hunter-gatherer types, when there was the rustle in the grass and it was the saber-toothed tiger, well, that spike of adrenaline, that cortisol that releases energy quickly into your body so you can respond to things, well, you needed that. But now what happens is we have that happening while you're sitting at your desk, or behind the wheel of your car.
Get intense. Your muscles get all tight.
Yeah.
You office workers.
You're ready for, combat. Like, that you're ready for something.
Yeah.
That never materializes. Right. But so instead of like big spikes, we go from acute stress. We're now faced with this chronic stress, mm-hmm. right? And I think that's part of the reason why we have like record amounts of mental illness is that we're just not evolved for modern life. People aren't having like true downtime. We weren't meant to be connected. Like our brain can't process being connected to the entire planet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And follow all these trends. And I'm taking a course on digital social selling for work and the amount of things that you need to keep track of.
Yeah.
And of course, automation is the key, but nevertheless, keep track of it all.
Yeah.
And you have all these personas and segmentation for messaging. It's like, oh my God. Yeah.
But anyway, that's in a sense, that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Right. That adds to the levels of stress.
Sure does.
And one of the things that we run into is when we're in a chronically elevated but low grade like stress mode all the time, it affects your sleep, which we'll talk about. Being jacked up on adrenaline all the time, even if it's like a low drip, like all of those hormones eventually run out. And so one of the things you run into is, we would colloquially speaking, call it burnout, mm-hmm. But what it is like a point at which your whole system's so fatigued because it was never meant to be, revved at that level, that long. Right. And anybody who's had that, like fatigue, lack of motivation, just blah, barely. You got to drag your ass through life, right? You just feel like fried. There's a big physical component to that, like as far as like numerous systems in your body.
And I'm sure you've experienced this too, like burning the candle at both ends. Like I've gotten into situations where I had pneumonia 2 times in 3 months. I was going down to New York and Boston for work and under a lot of stress to, have massive impact and did it at the expense of my health, and it was pretty bad. And when you think about it, when you go on these trips, and I always feel this obligation to like boom, 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 jam pack, I start to include a few times I might go to the gym. I started to do that on my last few trips before COVID, just find room for exercise, but otherwise, and usually are just downtime, like not with others, right? To rejuvenate for the next day. But you're up early and you're, taking flights and that's considered to be what you need to do, the norm, but it's not healthy, right? So it's interesting because when you talk about this rest time, and so I have a Garmin watch. What do I have again? It's a Phoenix Sapphire.
6 Sapphire.
And it tracks a lot of things. And one of the things it tracks both my sleep quantity and quality, of which stress is a part of that, but my stress as well. And when I look at and it tracks my body battery, where I'm at, regeneration. And it's usually not actually very good. That's the other, and I've been working on this for the past, maybe 3 months now, really focus on sleep and then stress. 'Cause my sleep markers, which look at your quantity of sleep, you want to get 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep, which I've been hitting. And my scores, by the way, were something like really low, like just terrible. I'm going to say probably like 24, really bad. And now recently I had a 75 and I was pretty happy about that. And so my deep sleep's really good. I'm often in light sleep mode, which is too long. My REM's shit. Restlessness is fine, but stress is always really bad. And by stress, what I noticed, and this is when I alerted me to look at stress management, was that for the first 3 or 4 hours of my sleep, it would be at the levels of like 75 out of 100. Like it's really high. And I'm like, what? And I would look at what happened the day before and I'm like, yeah, it was busy. And yeah, it's been busier than normal because we've got people coming in to visit us and I take in these clients and I take them around and it's a lot of problem solving and last minute requests. But it's like, and I used to equate that feeling of business as riding a stallion or surfing a wave, like that adrenaline rush, right? Yep. And I used to like it, but not a lot, or I used to like it to some period because it reminded me like, wow, that's what it was. And even though I solved the problems for the day and I went to sleep, no problem, I wasn't stressed. Obviously the stress was still in my body.
Yeah. Cause it's not like it's like poof goes away.
So I thought it was a state of mind. I didn't realize it was a chemical reaction.
Yeah. Like basically the state of mind creates a chemical reaction.
So there's all this residual that if I haven't burned off and done something with, and I'm doing an easy strength program now these days, so it's probably not burning off enough energy. And I'm doing 10,000 steps a day, which is great, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
And so that made me really take a closer look at all of this. So I've actually been doing this an experiment on myself of doing a couple different things, which is, focusing on better quality sleep. But the stress management lately, what I've been doing is acupuncture. I never really was into Chinese acupuncture because it's all about your qis and meridians. And it's interesting. But I remember one day I had a very stressful day. Something pissed me off and I'm like, just hit me. Like we were there for my hand. I'm like, I hear acupuncture is good for stress. Just do it. And I felt like this wave of relaxation. I was like, whoa. It was like I don't do drugs, but it was just like, boom. It was just like a wave. It was really cool. And I'm like,
well, sometimes, and this is one of the cool things.
Maybe it was the placebo effect.
Yeah, but But it's also the fact that then you have removed yourself into a different environment
Yeah.
with the conscious effort to reduce stress.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're going, hey, professional, reduce my stress.
Well, in that moment, I wasn't. I was there for my hands.
Yeah, but you're still removed the environment.
Yes.
You changed your scenery.
Yes.
And it's a scenery where you're going to get care.
Right.
Right?
So you might as well take that moment to
But
unplug.
but it also makes your brain into a different process.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, like if you were, whether it's going to get a massage, it's like you are flicking a switch in your brain. I'm going to look after me now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's the actual act of it.
But just the voluntary act of going to it.
Look after yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That is interesting. And so I revisited the acupuncture about a month ago, and I started doing it once a week. And yeah, it's been interesting. I don't know if it's because of the acupuncture or everything else combined, but my stress markers in my sleep have gone down. So they were at 75 before. Now they're averaging around maybe 25. Big difference. Okay. And then the other thing that I did is I saw a naturopath about food. That was her approach, was to look at my blood panel, my blood work, and to look at what I'm eating in my diet. In her philosophy, improper nutrition puts a stress on your body, right? So it causes those chemical processes, which in turn cause stress on you. It increases your stress, okay? Your body just doesn't function properly. Just a bunch of different things. And I think that between that and I talked about, I dog sit, which has been incredible. So we were talking about rituals, right? Like how do you, throughout your day, do you find those rest periods? Which, by the way, when I went to the acupuncture clinic yesterday, I noticed when I looked at my Garmin phone, the app, my rest periods, I'm like, oh, my body actually regenerated 5%, 5 points during that time. And that rarely happens. So I now understand what regeneration looks like or feels like. And sometimes it's even, I regenerate even at my desk. And I don't know why, because I'm working, right? And it could be a combination of things. It could be a recovery day from working out, etc. But basically, the way I would describe rest, a state of rest, is essentially, and in that case, I was there for an hour. I was actually I wasn't sleeping, but I was in a very relaxed state with my eyes closed.
Well, see, that's where you went from a sympathetic nervous system, like the fight or flight, even if it's low grade, which is sort of what we deal with, got to get shit done, to the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest, right? And so you, whether consciously or unconsciously, you downregulate your system, and that puts your body into a healing mode, right, where it can rebuild.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, I think, one of the biggest things is most people don't know how to switch from one to the other.
Yeah.
We all understand the 1,000 deadlines, got to pick up the kids. Oh, we all understand that, right? But how to switch to downregulate the system back to, a recuperative, because when you're amped up, your body's not fixing itself. It's not healing. It's not growing. It's ready for war. Our thing we run into is that your body's ready for that, but you're not giving it an outlet. So you just end up with all of this kind of like pent up,
right,
that doesn't go anywhere.
So we were talking about how exercise can be that outlet, right? And I do recall years ago, and I loved the feeling of when I did do yoga, and I did it 3 days a week, and it was like wringing out your body, just felt that good, especially when you're sitting all day and if you're stressed and you carry your stress in your muscles, in your back, your shoulders, your neck. It was amazing because I remember I was actually going to the chiropractor 3 days a week because I had these neck issues, and then yoga solved it, right? But then we were talking about how even after exercise, there's the need for down regulation.
Yes. Like, so exercise is a great stress reducer. Like it burns off a lot of like excess nervous energy, if you want to call it, you know. But you run into the thing. If it was we'll call it a tough workout, you know, where you had to dig deep and give her a bit, well, you had to get amped up for that, right? So you're going to be in a sympathetic nervous state. You're ready to fight, you know. You're instead of fighting people or bears, you're fighting weights. But if there was ever a, you know, giver in that workout, like you're naturally more amped up. And when you're done a workout, as quickly as possible, you want to transition back into a parasympathetic state, so your body is into healing mode, right? And the simple trick is just as soon as your, you know, heart rate's normal, like sort of at a comfortable heart rate, lay down on the floor, close your eyes, and just focus on slow, deep breathing for a couple 5 minutes. You know, like 2 to 5 minutes of that, you will down-regulate your system and get it back into a recuperative mode, back into that parasympathetic. You know, your food can digest, your muscles can repair, right? Because when they're ready to go, it's hard for them to repair.
It's your recovery,
yeah.
But it's not just that. It's even from a hormonal perspective. You know, it's interesting because I've never really been educated on that until you and I talked about it. And maybe just in, you know, as I delved more into this topic, the need for that after exercise. Although in group workout classes, they do it all the time.
Yeah, they do a shitty job of explaining why they're doing it, the benefit that comes.
Yeah.
A lot of times you're done a workout, like if you've done it and you're like, what am I doing this nonsense for? Let's go.
Well, it's funny because you always hear from many different sources the importance of, you know, the need for meditation, but I'm like, yeah, I don't have time for that. You know, it's not until like we have this conversation, I'm like, yeah, I need to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Because meditation is just another tool to lower stress.
Yeah.
Right.
Of which breath work often is a part of.
Yeah.
And so, you know, things like just breathing deeply in 4 seconds and then out 4 seconds, or doing the box breathing where you breathe in for 4 seconds and then you hold your breath for 4 seconds and you breathe out for 4 seconds and then you hold for 4 seconds, and it's like a box. Doing that for a couple of minutes is incredibly effective.
Yeah.
I remember when my heart rate was like at 95 or something just ridiculously high. Like it was ranked, you know, rated out of 100.
Your stress level on your watch.
Sorry, it's my stress that was high, not my heart rate. And my watch was like prompting me like, do you want to do box breathing? I'm like, yes. And it was just amazing how much that dropped immediately, like within a minute.
Yeah.
Boom, you know, and your heart rate as well. I was asking Winston to help me look up how my stress is measured on my watch, by the way, and it is done by the oxygen saturation rate, because
the heart rate
and the respiratory rate.
Yeah,
is how it comes up with the stress indicators. And so,
because if you're sitting, right, and it also factors in movement, because if your heart rate goes up and you're moving, it goes, oh, you must be exercising. If your heart rate, because especially when you've worn it for a while, it knows what your base levels are. And if you are undergoing stress, your heart rate will go up, not into exercise range, but it will go up when you're not doing anything. right? Because your body's getting primed for that action. And so it's one of these things where having, a spike in adrenaline, which doesn't have to be the amped up, because if you get a small spike due to stress, well, it cranks up your system, right? So the watch is also sort of seeing those transient changes.
Right.
And they seem to have it programmed in. If you're getting those changes, but you're not moving, well, then it has to be stress.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a really great watch. I feel like we should have, like, we're totally plugging Garmin, but it's because, I'm wearing it and we actually both have it, but my watch is the one that does this. And it's what alerted me to take a look at this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known there might have been a problem. Was when I saw that it was affecting my sleep score. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm getting like 9 hours sleep.
Yeah, people just assume I'm in bed this long, I'm doing my part. It's
true. And so this is why we put these two topics together, because they are so closely related into the regeneration health of your body. But it was interesting how it got me thinking about it. And it may not be entirely precise, but it's a good indicator of, where things are at and a flag that you should pay attention to, right? And so I have been successful in the past, especially more recently, in reducing that or seeing major improvements in my sleep score, going from like 25, like really shitty scores, to like 75 recently. And it has everything to do with stress. And stress is a big part of it, because there were times when everything else was in check. My REM, my deep, my light sleep, restlessness was low, but what the fuck? And it's my stress is high. Right. And it didn't even have to be that high. They want it to be around 13. And it was at maybe even at 45 was considered too high.
Yeah, but because the thing is, that's too high of a level of stress to go to get sleep. Quality sleep.
And it would be for hours. So I don't know if it's the acupuncture alone. Okay. I'm just giving you things that I've been doing differently. The diet, I've been really focusing on having more vegetables in my food. It's also in support of weight loss as well, but getting off supplements and the idea, although we just talked about chemistry, which we should just say the best form of nutrition is through your food.
Yeah.
Okay. And where you're lacking, you take supplements.
Yep.
But, trying to focus on a variety of foods and water and just a lot of extra things. Because essentially, if you don't have those things in check, you put stress on your body. Okay. We know we need to move more, because as you're saying, if you're all amped up and you're sitting and you're not moving, then it's just it wreaks havoc. So I wonder if the fact that my shoulders and my neck, my traps are always super tight, right? And interestingly enough, when you go to sleep and you're in the REM stage, your nervous system turns off. You are as flexible as a rag doll.
Yep.
If you couldn't touch your toes, you will, But it's interesting how it's your nervous system that we're trying to turn off.
Yeah. Like and this is the part where, to me, the thing that's exciting about it is it's not this unknowable thing. There's parts of it that we haven't figured out yet, right? Because it's all the brain. Fundamentally is kind of the master controller. But we know, play with the breathing and you can change what nervous state you're in.
That's massive.
James
Nestor, by the way, is an expert in this field. Worthwhile reading his books about breath work.
Yeah, and you can see him on a lot of like the big podcasts too.
Ben Greenfield, he was on there. It was really good.
And then Andrew Huberman, he's a neuroscientist who's got a podcast, and he's got some really good episodes on stress.
And he also had Matthew Walker, who's a sleep expert, on recently. Oh, not recently, but he was on there talking about the top tips.
Yeah.
But breath work is major. Like that is massively. I think that's almost the best thing you can do for an immediate effect.
Yeah. It's literally hacking your brain.
I will say, drinking and drugs according to Matthew Walker, for sleep does not
Are
help.
terrible. No.
Doesn't help.
Well, they put you to sleep, but you have a terrible quality of sleep.
You can't get into the processes of sleep that you need to get into.
Yeah. Well, and that's sort of one of those things where, we'll wrap up a few stress things and then we'll talk about that.
I know, but they're so intertwined. It's really neat. Yeah, going back to stress, so rituals that you want to have in your daily routine. Okay, so I would look at the morning. Just being in nature, temperature changes also, right? Especially as we're in colder weather, or even splashing water on your face, or cold showers, which are hard to do. But one of the things that I love that always puts me in an instant good mood and pretty relaxed is I've got my hot shower, but I open the window and I love that cold, fresh air touch my face, right? And you're warm, right? But going for a walk outside, that immediately alters your mood. Good for, especially if you're stressed quite a bit and you got deadlines, so it might cause anxiety or depression, right? That's great for you. I found that I have a dog because I dog sit all the time, which has also been great since I've been working from home to move. Mm-hmm. Honestly, there's sometimes I'm stressed and I'll go cuddle with the dog. Yeah. How can that touch not be contagious and soothing and relaxing, even if it's just like for a minute or so, right? It doesn't take forever, but going for those walks in the morning, which I like to just put on a podcast or maybe I used to listen to meditation podcasts in the past. This Buddhist monk was very funny. Great way to start the day. I'm in the forest, being in nature. There's been a lot of studies about, they call it forest bathing in Japan, but that there's some pretty significant improvements of being, that's mood altering. And I think overall, if it's mood altering, stress will wreak havoc on your body. So a lot of it's psychological, how you deal with things, but taking yourself out of a situation. Well,
if you can change the brain, then you change the chemistry within your body, right? And that's good or bad. So obviously downregulating, the nervous system. One of the other things, and this you'll find really helps, is actually go through your life and declutter. Like when your environment is clearer, like less cluttered, your brain is less cluttered. Less clutter, less stress.
I would agree with that.
And then, as far as the activities in your life goes, is much stuff that you can just streamline as possible, right? Like take the excuses out of your life. Because it's like, I would have worked out, but I couldn't find my shoes. Like, plan things out so things are packed. Things are, checklists. Write a to-do list for tomorrow before you go to bed. Right? And check the motherfucker off as you do it. Like, you would be amazed how you have less stress, and therefore end up sleeping better. Because you don't have to think about the shit because you wrote it down already. It's there for the morning.
It's huge.
Have your clothes planned. Have just these things that are just done. Like, is something as stupid as like literally have a place for your keys, right? That you've designated it, maybe put a hook somewhere and trace the shape of the keys, right? And tell everybody, this is where I put my keys. And you put your fucking keys in that place. Like, the
You're
amount
not referencing me, are you?
You've done it, like, or not followed my direction. But it's not endemic to you.
I know.
This is a human thing. The amount of stress, because when you can't find shit, you're stressed out. Like, especially when you've got to be somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that's all on you. Like, the life is stressful enough, you know? Like, if you can develop those habits, things have a home, right? You put things back in their home. It's not to be like some neat freak or pedantic or anything. It's just streamline your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Decluttering's huge.
You know, you get some of that in place and boom, right? Think of like, because, you know, the watch does stress in points, right? It's not one thing that's going to make you, you know, have like a more manageable level of stress. And therefore, if your stress is more manageable.
It's your lifestyle.
Yeah. It's just, but little bits.
Yeah.
Right? If putting your keys in the right place, so you, and your wallet, you know, any of those things you need to find, right? Have homes.
Yeah. 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 And I think, you know, going back to what's been working for me lately, I think the one thing that I've always lacked for myself is self-care.
Mm-hmm.
It's like those hot baths or reading. And I know you look at reading very differently. But for me, if I read, it's like a massive escape for me. If I'm doing that, I'm doing really well at slowing down. I'm used to just go, go, go. Mm-hmm. And my mom always says to me, you're so busy. You're too busy all the time. I'm like, yeah, but what, you know?
Yeah, but you're going to die earlier.
Which is funny because don't they say that your mom's always right?
Well, your mom would say mom's always right.
Yeah.
You know, I think if I...
Or, no, it's a saying in general, but it's true. Like, I would finally now agree that, yeah, my life has been too busy. I've liked it. Don't get me wrong. I like busy. But there hasn't been enough downtime. Mm-hmm. And now that I've experienced... Because when I had my acupuncture treatment yesterday for an hour, super relaxing, fell asleep, you know. I later on looked at my phone and it showed me you generated 5%. Mm-hmm. That's pretty good, you know, for that time. And I'm like, so that's what it feels like. And, you know, that's an example of that level of relaxation. And actually tonight when I went and lied down for like 2 minutes, it showed up as rest in my, you know, and I actually was working on this problem lying down, but I needed to do it. But I was intending to go in there to relax. That's actually why I didn't want to work out tonight, because I've been going all day and I hadn't. Actually, that's a good habit. I mean, not that I should always just go lie down, but and you don't need to be in your bed if you're worried about sleeping away the rest of the day, because I know it's easy for me to do. I like to nap. But taking a moment, we know breath work and all these other things are helpful. Mm-hmm. Really important to be mindful of that. So that, yes, when they say most important things of your day, journaling, meditation, all this, you know, take it seriously. These are the reasons why. Yeah,
because, and I think that's one of the things that isn't explained to people. Like, literally, these are techniques to hijack your nervous system to then hijack your body chemistry, right? So when we basically meditate, breath work, writing things down, decluttering, all of these different things are different hacks to get into our brain, which then, because the brain is sort of the master control unit of all of the chemical processes going on within your body, when it gets the signal that, man, it's all good, it's cool, you know, then, you know, the adrenaline, the cortisol, like all the stress hormones are sort of down-regulated. Your body starts like going into repair mode, you know, so you can build the guns, you know, because your muscles aren't built in the gym. They're broken in the gym, right? They're built when you recover. But if your body never gets into recovery mode, then you don't make nearly the progress you'd want to. When you're sort of amped up all the time, you know, the temperature's just turned up just that little bit too much, you know, can lead to hypertension, fucked up insulin levels, food cravings, which then become this spiral. And when it's food cravings, it's always carbohydrates because your body wants readily available energy. It's not going, we got to get ready for war, so give me some, complex carbohydrates and some protein. No, it wants sugar, right? And we know that starts that blood sugar roller coaster.
Does too much sugar and carbs in your body, does it also contribute to stress? Because
it is stress.
It's a fuel. It's a fuel. Yeah.
Yeah, you're overloading your fuel.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay, I never thought of it from that perspective.
Huh. And then you end up gaining excess body fat. And unless you're a sumo wrestler, most people don't get when they're seeing the scale, their body fat level, their physique go in the wrong direction. That adds distress too, right? And a lot of times when people are stressed, they stress eat, which is their body wants readily available carbohydrates. So it's this vicious circle, You don't get people who are stressed out going, God damn it, man, I'm craving a salad. Right?
That's a good point.
It's shit they want.
That's interesting.
Because they're, and partly because a lot of
they're running on adrenaline. They need the fuel.
Yeah.
Huh.
And that's why, it's hard. And we'll segue into the sleep thing, right? Because these are all similar processes. If you have a shitty night's sleep, you crave garbage food in the morning. You want greasy, high carb.
Yeah, so I hope we're getting across the downward vicious circle that this is. I think that two things I want to mention before we move on. One is going back to measuring stress. One thing that we're going to do with with this natural path, I want to explore a couple things. I haven't done my hormones before, the female hormones. We haven't checked that. Just we thought, well, we should know what that is, and I can get it covered. But we're going to add in cortisol levels in there too, because stress, you think you'd want to cover that. So I'm going to get that done too. So we'll see. But all the more reason that if sleep is where your body regenerates, and this is how we segue in, all the more reason to do some kind of meditation. Especially for me, I'm going to experiment with this now. Tonight, before I go to bed, I'll put on I have an app with Shine. It's supposed to expire in January, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll continue it.
Those 5-minute meditations.
Yeah, and I thought it was more just to go to sleep, and I thought it was more from a mental worry. I didn't realize stress really impacts my quality of sleep. Yeah,
but and that's the thing where everything is connected.
Yes.
Right? Like mental is physical. When people talk about mental health, right? And I just did air quotes. One of the things I wish we would stop talking about is health being different from mental health, because they're the same thing. Health is health. Everything in the body is connected, right? The body is a unit. If anything in the unit is out of alignment, then it all gets fucked up, right? So it's one of those things where if somebody has a, depression, very rarely is it just sort of an isolated thing. It will end up affecting a bunch of other systems, right? So it's that idea of, think about, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, a classic antidepressant, completely fucks your sex drive, right? It's working on some pathways. They're doing it, you take it to help with, the symptoms of depression. but it completely fucks most people's libido. You know what I mean? Like there's different interconnections going on there, right? So, and then partly, you know, they're not entirely sure how, you know, everything interrelates, but they're related. They're connected. Mm-hmm. You know, you fix one thing or assist one thing, and then you've affected something else, right? And it's sort of that way throughout the body. And everything in the body wants to be on like a rhythm. Up and down, up and down, up and down. If you're, you know, it's like excited, relaxed. You know, moving, resting. Eating, fasting. You know, like there's kind of these yin and yang balances that need to take place for you to function optimally, right? Like if you think even to something as simple, if you want to maintain the same body weight, the calories you eat need to match the calories you burn. Simple physics, right?
In and out.
Well, you can picture where, you know, if it's out of whack, then, you know, you'll run into the thing where activity's low, calories are high, body weight accumulates. Right? The balance is off. And that's sort of the biggest thing that with, you know, modern lifestyle is the balance is off.
All these taglines are going through my brain right now of what we're talking about in this episode.
Yeah.
The yin and yang, the find your balance. But
yeah, but
it's actually, it doesn't happen too often that when we have these podcasts, like this is a true conversation we're having as we're chatting with you. And it's really, I'm having a couple aha moments now that I think we're going to change how I do things. And so I will experiment with the idea of focusing on what's the impact of me doing these meditations at night, just to help make sure I go into this relaxed state, you know, in case there's still some residual cortisol from the day.
Yeah, well, one of the big things you run into too is one of the easy fixes for you is cut off like having coffees at 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of coffee at night.
No, but
what are you talking about? Why did you even bring that up?
Because I see you like you should never have a coffee past 2 p.m.
Okay.
Right.
But I generally only have a coffee in the morning. It's on auto occasion if I pick you up, I'll have a coffee. It's a
well, I've seen it enough that it's a recurring thing.
Okay.
It's not an everyday thing.
I'm in denial.
Yes. But the fact is like caffeine is a stimulant that increases your production of adrenaline.
Yeah.
The release of adrenaline, not so much the production. So if you're artificially getting an adrenaline spike because of a stimulant, right, which is why it makes us more awake, late in the day, your body hasn't fully metabolized that by the time it's time to go to bed.
So the European in me was trying to justify why I should have a coffee the other day. I mean, is this a sign of addiction?
The European you?
Yeah, I got European blood.
Well, yeah, but what's the... I'm missing the...
Well, let me finish.
Okay.
You're interrupted. Europeans have coffee, like espresso, like after dinner. Like, that's just the thing.
They're idiots. There you go.
Yeah, they usually live longer. Yeah.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Which Europeans?
Italians. Like, I'm thinking of people who drink a lot of coffee, like your Italians. I'm just saying, Europeans are generally more healthier than North Americans. And one thing that they do religiously is having coffee after their meals, like after dinner.
Well, coffee's not bad for you. Now, first, we don't know what the caffeine content of that coffee is.
Okay.
Number one. So, you know, if we're talking... but then Europeans also And again, Europeans are not a monolith, right? Like it's 750 million people in a bunch of different countries. So it's, you will say, like, say Italians or Spanish, they tend to operate later in the day, right? They go to bed later, they sleep in later, right? Like their whole day seems to be shifted. So it's not the smartest thing in the world.
Oh, it's low caffeine content. Sorry, I just did a search on coffee that Italians have. They tend to use Arabica variety of coffee bean. It has low caffeine content.
Yeah, so then it's
all right.
You get the like a lot of the polyphenols, which are good for you from the coffee, but you're not getting the spike of caffeine. You know, whereas most coffee in North America is kind of optimized for turbo.
Yeah.
Right. Plus, they're talking an espresso, which is like a tiny little aperitif.
Yeah, I'm just trying to. Anyway.
Versus your
I know that we
big
totally
gulp size.
We totally sidetracked here.
Yeah.
But
the caffeine thing is important.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like limit your stimulants. You know, like I just arbitrarily pick 2 p.m. because then it gives lots of time.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
And
is that what you think is a major factor in my sleep? Because I don't.
I'm not talking like there is no major factors. There's all factors, right? You know, because it comes into one of those things where I think learning how to downregulate, right? So you're changing that brain chemistry, earlier in the day, right? Because you know you obviously stop working like at 5 or whatever, It's shutting it off.
Yeah, but I think the other thing, and I just thought of it right now, I'm go. And I have been talking to the kids, you know, the past couple of years about alone time, you know, me time. And I think that is important. I think a lot of parents understand that, yeah, they probably don't get it either, you know, especially when they're on schedules to take their kids here or there, you know, they're always feeling like they're stretched. I would argue, yeah, that's probably another big actionable thing. And I think when you look at my life, the one thing that is clear is that it's go. Like it's generally busy. Like I'm doing other things, whether it be cleaning or this or that. There isn't me time. There isn't a lot of me time.
Yeah, and that's a failure on your part.
Yeah, I know.
You gotta, you know, take it.
Yeah.
Use some of that amped up adrenaline to conquer your me time.
This is my me time. Fuck off.
You know, but it's one of those things where that ability just to downregulate.
Yeah.
And you need the space to do it, right? And nobody is going to give it to you, so you have to take it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And no, that's not on the toilet with your phone.
No.
For 20 minutes. Or half hour, people are like, what are you doing in there?
You know, my legs are falling asleep.
Yeah. Let's go into sleep.
Yeah. You know, so obviously set yourself up throughout your day so you're not, by the time it's time to go to sleep, you're not completely, you know, already at a disadvantage because of the level of stress that you're under.
Yeah.
You know, is number one. Then developing sleep rituals. And these are pretty straightforward, right? We can get into the weeds, but electronics.
This is huge.
Stop an hour before bed.
Yeah. So electronics and overall general light in the house, right? Because obviously back in the day, there wasn't electricity, right? So your circadian rhythm is following the rise of the sun, the setting of the sun. And so all the natural light that we have just screws things up. It's not natural. Because when we go camping, we easily go to sleep and we sleep well, right?
Well, because you were physically active all day.
Yeah.
And it's dark out.
Yeah. So those things do help you So shutting, actually, and I have them all lit up now because we're podcasting, but that's a good thing to do a couple hours before you go to
Just
go to
dial
bed.
your lighting level down.
Yeah, bring it down. And if you have Google Home, you can just say, hey, Google, program it at a certain time to...
So your robot overlords know what light settings you want?
Exactly. But you're right. Obviously, the rabbit hole of your phone and social media is terrible.
Yeah.
I could easily spend an hour just scrolling. And honestly, sometimes I'm just scrolling because I'm just watching the reels because they're funny. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And then do you ever get into that mode where your fingers just naturally want to do... It's an addiction right in front of you. You're like checking all these apps that your go-to and you do it over and over again. Do you ever do that?
No.
That's when you need to put the phone down.
Yeah, no, but
run.
But that's sort of one of those things that I run into is I've been aware of this type of thing for a long time. So then, like maybe I'm just fucking old, but social media to me, the only reason to be on it is basically promotion, right? Like it's getting our message out. Mm-hmm. Like I don't give a shit if anybody knows what I'm doing, right? If I set a new PR, nobody gives a shit, right? Like when you look at the stuff of like that people put on social media,
Yeah.
they're looking for validation.
Yeah.
If I haven't found it yet, I'm not going to find it. You know what I mean? Like if I haven't found a way to self-validate, at 50 years old,
Yeah.
nobody else giving me likes is going to like, I'm very thankful that, I went into adulthood before any of this bullshit happened. Right.
Because it's so hard to separate for the new generation.
Yeah.
The younger generation.
The idea of like likes and social currency and whatever.
Especially when there's such an emphasis on it. Yeah.
It's like, fuck it. Like I love the internet for its ability to, like, we put what's effectively a radio show without a radio station hiring us.
Yeah.
I love the fact that I can put articles out and reach people all over the world.
Yeah.
Right. And I can engage with people, and that part I love. But this whole, Facebook, Instagram, hijack the dopamine pathways in people's brain. Mm-hmm. It just didn't work on me. Mm-hmm. I just don't care. Right. I want our stuff to reach people.
Yeah.
Right. But it's from that idea that I think, the things that we're talking about and educating about can help people. And I think that's sort of why, like, as a coach, that's what I'm aiming for, right?
Yeah.
I want to see people improve themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And if we can be the conduit that gives people some tools, hurrah.
Yeah.
But
that is a real thing that people struggle with.
Oh, I totally agree.
They need to be, so it's worthwhile for us to mention that. That it's and of course there's documentaries. There's I think there's one on Netflix that talks about people who used to work at all of the big places, Google, Facebook, and all that. And there's so much in the media. Everybody already knows about this.
Yes, it's our evil overlords.
Yeah. Moving on. Are there things that you can do to help? Go ahead.
Get a good night's sleep. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Have sex. Like, seriously. Like, I'm not, whether you do it by yourself or you do it with somebody, consensually, of course. They say, like, don't have, like, an athlete shouldn't have sex before the big game.
They probably should, actually.
Right. Well, yeah, or the night before the big game. It's not the having sex. It's the fact that the athlete's out chasing tail all night and not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
But the sex actually gets you into a more relaxed, connected, chill state. Right? So it actually is good, from a relaxation, getting a good night's sleep standpoint.
Yeah.
Right? Then, we run into the thing of, if you've dim, like environment, like an hour before, some meditations like you're looking to do can be highly effective.
Just to address
the noise
in your head. The other one that I really like is temperature. So I open up my window, it's 0 degrees out, and interestingly enough, I usually run cold.
Mm-hmm.
And we've noticed this too when you're camping outside. When you camp outside, like in cooler temperatures, your body's core temperature rises to deal with that.
Yeah.
So I'm toasty warm, which is funny because other times when I have the window closed, same environment, I'm cold as fuck. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I find that really cool, pardon the pun, that I can enjoy that. So that's something they say from a brain perspective, it's easier to have. I think it's REM sleep that Matthew Walker was talking about when the temperatures are cooler.
Yeah.
To go into that stage.
Well, that's why when I was a poor, and that's, when I was younger and didn't have air conditioning, summertime, you sleep like shit, right? Whereas when it's cold out, like whether it's the cracked window or, sleeping outside, you run into the thing, you sleep much better. Warm body, cool nose. Mm-hmm. And then having like a dark room. So blinds, sleep mask.
Oh, that's huge.
Any of those types
That's improved my sleep as well. Is a sleep mask.
Yeah. Like getting the light levels down.
Yeah.
It's sort of like having good sleep hygiene.
Yeah, I tried also once having a slightly heavier blanket on me. I know for some people it feels like comfort. I actually slept really well. Maybe because I usually sleep on my own because you don't live with me, right? Hint, hint. No, I'm just teasing now. But when we had the dogs sleeping on the bed, right? Like just that coziness and the warmth was really nice. It was really comforting.
It's like a puppy pile.
It's literally what it was when we had the two dogs and you and I on the bed. Yeah. But that was really comforting. So I'm trying to think if there's anything. I think eating before bed, you want to avoid that because your stomach's digesting.
Yeah. You want to be going to bed in a fasted state. Mm-hmm. And one of the other things is go to pee before you go to bed. And
stop drinking.
Yeah. Like don't.
Hours before. Because that's another issue that I've had is getting up many times in the middle of the night. Yeah.
So basically if you can sort of stop drinking about an hour before bed, you can probably sleep through the night without having to get up and pee.
Yeah. Especially if you've been, adding more water to your daily diet and you're trying to, chug it all back before you go to bed. Yeah. So, don't do that.
No.
I think those are the key things about sleep.
Yeah, because we're sort of doing this a little backwards because stress, we explained what was bad about it.
That's true. We didn't talk about the why. It's important. Yeah.
But here's the thing you run into is if you have shitty sleep, not enough, not good quality, you wake up the next day, aside from we all know what it feels like not to have good sleep, right? You feel like shitty, you're like a zombie, all that kind of thing. You tend to crave shitty food, like easily processed carbs and fats. Like you want classic big dumb breakfast, right? Pancakes and bacon and, home fries. Mm-hmm. But then the other thing you'll run into with it is your insulin resistance will be cranked up to a sub-diabetic level. And this is one shitty night's sleep. all of a sudden if you get your blood tested, you will show the response of somebody who is pre-diabetic. That's one step away from, if you continue on this path, your doctor will give you the speech. And that's from one shitty night's sleep. And then, and I just happen to be more familiar with the numbers for guys because, I'm a guy. But because your body produces the vast majority of your testosterone while you sleep, a shitty night's sleep will drop your testosterone level by hundreds of points when you wake up in the morning. So you can go from just sort of a normal medium average testosterone level, say maybe 600, and the range, when they do the blood tests, is 300 to 1,000.
Yeah.
Right. Which is ridiculously wide range because it was based on everybody. So the 80-year-olds.
Yeah. You're like an 80-year-old.
And the 20-year-olds are all in the same fucking range, but so you run into the thing where you could see going from 600 normally to 350, 400 because you had a bad night of sleep that day, because you stayed up too late, you partied, whatever, or just stayed up too late.
That's like testosterone of an 80-year-old.
Yeah.
And you know what that means.
You ain't gonna fuck very good. But again, testosterone, and it's necessary for women as well. It's just women have 1/10 the level that men do. But you run into the thing. It's like energy, libido, muscle building.
Totally.
All the things.
Yeah.
There's a reason why people do take steroids, right? Because more of it does things. Just ask The Rock. So you run into the case where one bad night's sleep, right, completely fucks your blood. A day or two of good sleep and you sort of return back to normal. But now imagine if you're chronically underslept, right?
Yeah. Going
to bed late, getting up early for work, your sleep quality's shitty. If one night does that, imagine what chronically like that does to you.
And if you often hear in interviews, performers, musicians in particular, or actors are like, I sleep. That is like a strict, rule about me and my health, and because they've got to perform, they got to be on, right? Mm-hmm. I think that I'm obviously getting tired because I lost my train of thought. That just prompted me. This is exactly why I actually started to focus on my sleep. It wasn't because remember, it was actually brought on because of cognitive function. Mm-hmm. Because Winston's been hearing me complain about my loss of memory and how I can improve. He's like, when are you going to do so? Like, you've been talking about this for years and you've done nothing about it. I'm like, oh, you're right. Let's break that down. What can I do? And one of the things was sleep. And my doctor, I even went to my doctor to say, hey, can we get, this tested? Is there, just like, honestly, for a lot of people, it's sleep. So I'm like, okay, let's try and work this out, because I was getting on average 6.5 hours of sleep. As much as I knew that it wasn't good for me, it always ended up being that much, which is weird because now I can easily do 7.5. I don't understand it. And so I was trying to improve my cognitive function. And then with that, I started to measure my sleep and wear my watch to bed, because usually it's not comfortable, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm like, fuck it, I'll do it for what I want to find out. Now I'm used to it. And that's when I realized my sleep quality was poor. Well, why? Oh, it's the stress. So that's how it all came.
Yeah.
That was the flow of it. But now you understand naturally stress and sleep would affect your cognitive function, right?
Yeah.
So that's ultimately what I was.
Well, because
That was my end goal.
People don't think your brain is an organ like your muscles are, like your heart is, right? And it needs to regenerate too, right? So and there's actually some data on this. Like, you will see a decline in like actual brain quality from chronic lack of sleep. Right? Because when you're sleeping, your brain is rebuilding too, because it's just tissue like everything else. Right? Like, it's got repairs to do. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't repair when you're awake very well. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, when we go to sleep, you know, it's sort of like I always joke about the elves in the back, you know? Well, the elves are coming out because, you know, if you think of it this way, like, you know, the elves can't be seen. So they can only come out to fix you when you're asleep. So if you don't fucking sleep enough, they can't do their job.
Yeah.
You know? And I realized like that could be a whole movie thing, you know? But that is just such a critical thing. Like, there's a reason, you know, if you are not getting adequate sleep, both in time and quality, you are prematurely aging yourself. Right? Because if the repair, we're aging anyway, right? There's nothing we can do about that. Like, eventually we all have a clock that's running out, right? But if, you know, the repair that your body can do, if you are not letting it do it because of poor sleep quality and duration, then, you know, you're taking a few minutes off your life, you know, because it's one of those things where those regenerations just aren't fully able to happen. So you're maybe only getting 90% repaired instead of 100% repaired. Yeah. Well, that accumulates over time, right? And, you know, like, why is it, you know, you see people will say, like, at 60. And you see some people at 60 where you're like, holy fuck, right? Like, I don't believe you're 60.
Yeah.
And then you see people and go, I don't believe you're still alive.
You don't look 60. You look 80. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
sure.
and because, you know, you run into the thing where you get people like, you know, Coach Dan John, you know, we talk about him all the time. He's in his 60s and doesn't look it, you know, but he also, when he's doing, you know, like, he trains every day, you know, he's still stronger than I ever was, you know, partly because, you know, he's a strength athlete, you know, but it's one of these things where there are, you know, basically he was within a couple of years of when both of my parents died. And they were not in any good shape. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It was a lifetime of bad lifestyle. The food, lack of exercise, smoking, drink, you know, like, just all the things.
Yeah.
Well, that shit eventually catches up to you.
Yeah.
Right? And they both died in their early to mid 60s. Whereas you get people, you know, in their 70s who are still great athletes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so that's sort of the thing that I look at, where learn from, you know, good examples and learn from bad examples.
Yeah. Have them as motivation.
You know,
honestly. I have both of those. Yeah.
you know, and on that note,
I need to get some sleep.
yeah,
I'm like yawning here. So
because we got to maintain as much of Catherine's cognitive function as we can. So yeah, if you guys are liking this whole series, let us know. If it's of use to you. Eventually we're going to have like written more in depth, because obviously when I'm writing an article or booklets or anything like that, we can include even more information, charts, make it all nerdy. What we want with the podcast is for it to be things that you can open your eyes to things you might not have been aware of, and take some little tips you can put into action.
mm-hmm.
Right. By executing, on a regular, consistent basis, you will improve the quality. Like, good sleep will improve a lot of things, right? Not just making you live longer, but your work performance will improve, because you're not all shot when you wake up in the morning. You don't need to like stuff an IV of coffee in your arm just to function.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Your physical recovery will be better from activity. So therefore your performance will increase and your capabilities will improve. Like, everything is this like weird ass kumbaya circle, that it's the same thing with stress, right? You learn how to master your sympathetic to parasympathetic transfer. And you'll find over time, you're like, oh man, I just feel better. Right. Cause you don't have that like burning in the base of your gut, that kind of low grade stress all the time.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm happier. Oh, fuck, life's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
When you have peace in your life, I think that's happiness.
Yeah. And you have control over that.
Yeah.
So check us out on Instagram. Just don't spend too much time there.
Just check us out.
Check us out on Facebook, Live Wild Radio. All our things are Live Wild Radio. Because Facebook's evil, but they're a great place for like-minded people to come together in groups.
Yeah.
Yeah,
livewildradio.com. We've got a ton of resources there.
Yep.
And other episodes.
And you can contact us there as well. We're happy to answer questions, take comments,
Just say hi.
Yeah.
Let us know you're out there.
Yeah. So until next time.
I'm Catherine. Work hard.
Play dirty.
And you're Winston. Bye-bye.
Yeah.